This is the
Five Stars
podcast.
Let me talk to you.
Hi.
So, what do you guys want to talk about? Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Thanks, guys. Back to you.
I just had the world's most mediocre cup of coffee from Starbucks. Seriously, man, why is it so hard to just brew a regular cup of coffee anymore? Why do I have to go out of my way to find good coffee in America? It never used to be like that. Before they started replacing regular brewers with all these newfangled automated machines. It's ridiculous. So I made myself a fresh one before I sat down here. Wanted to make sure I was still in a relatively good mood before I started recording anything. Hope everyone's doing well. It is the third installment of the FSWR podcast in the year 2026. Not that I'm keeping tabs or anything. We are the wrestling podcast nobody knows but everyone needs. Be sure that if you're checking out the show for the first time that you comment, subscribe, and give the show a like for me. We're here on YouTube and Rumble every Monday and Friday for new shows. It's going to be a quick one here for the Monday podcast, and actually by the time you're hearing this, I still haven't gotten around to watching the next episode of WCW in preparation for the Friday show. So I need to bang that one out before tomorrow. We're not going to waste any time with water cooler talk. Starbucks coffee kind of sucks. That's the moral to the story about the lousy cup I got earlier today. Was it as lousy as the episode of Retro Raw I just watched? Well, let's find out. Alright, Monday Night Raw, the go-home show before the 1997 Royal Rumble. Now, the big angle from the other week involved Sycho Sid powerbombing Pete Lothario on a table in the locker room. This was presumably supposed to be a very big deal, according to Vince's commentary. I kind of forgot the whole thing happened until they showed it during the cold open. Meanwhile, completely unrelated news, Steve Austin Pillmanized Bret Hart's leg on Superstars. Here's how Vince sold it. He very nonchalantly goes, "Hopefully the Hitman will be ready for Sunday." Yes, a career-ending injury that they just blew off on the secondary syndicated show. Nah, I'm sure Bret will be fine. It's only a minor flesh wound. So we open this week with Triple H and Jerry Lawler versus Mark Merrow and Goldust. We know that Hunter and Goldust are set to wrestle at the pay-per-view for the IC title. I still like how they're justifying Goldust's random out-of-the-blue face turn as we don't know what Goldust is. We don't know who he is. But we do know that he's defending the honor of Marlena. I believe the correct terminology would be gay. In kayfabe. On the same wrestling show where we saw a guy pull out a gun and threaten to shoot someone on live broadcast television. Still can't use the term homosexual in 1997. That's pushing the envelope too far. Oh, speaking of quirky Vince comments, this is a new one for me. he refused to call this a tag team match. He kept calling it tag team coordination. My God, is that ever a classic Vinceism? I had no idea he tried to outlaw the term wrestling match at one point. Shouldn't really surprise me. I knew he hated the word wrestling. I didn't think the word match would also be offensive jargon to use. I guess you could say these teams coordinated well together. That wasn't until the completely shitty DQ finish that came out of nowhere at the end. Then Goldust and Mero got into a little heated altercation. Babyfaces, by the way. And the whole thing was Goldust trying to get his hands on Hunter, which he wound up doing in the closing couple minutes. And while he had Hunter tangled in the ropes, he kept throwing down punches on him until the bell just randomly sounded to end the match. At no point did the official wave the match off or do anything to instruct the timekeeper to ring the bell, mind you. I think Tony Chimmel went into business for himself at the end there. And it didn't take long for them to cut away either. It was DQ finish, heels bail, Goldust and Mero get into a shoving match. Then they immediately pitched to a Shawn Michaels pre-tape where he's hanging out with his so-called broskies in San Antonio. It was actually a live feed. Because yeah, we still have to remind the people that Shawn's technically a babyface. Even though he's done nothing remotely likable on camera for ages now. Before I talk about the Shawn stuff, I have to praise this Sid promo from the empty Alamo Dome. I had thought that Sid cut the greatest promo of his career last week when I heard him utter the phrase, "When I was born the man." That line in and of itself earned Sid's reputation for being one of the all-time greats of this industry. But this promo he did from the Alamo Dome, dude, it was fucking something else. He's down in the fishbowl whispering into the camera, looking at all sides of the building. Okay, he begins by quoting a German philosopher who said, "In the act of fighting monsters, make sure you don't become a monster yourself." I personally don't have a great, well-rounded knowledge of German philosophy, so I cannot vouch for who said this. But if Sid's quoting it, it must be true. Then he starts talking about all of Shawn's family and friends who are going to be around ringside watching when Sid's beating his ass at the pay-per-view, including, and this is almost a direct quote, all 70,000 Mexicans that Jose summons to fill the seats at the venue. Because if there's one thing we know about San Antonio, Texas, the entire wrestling population in San Antonio is 100% Mexican. And of course, Sid's entire proposition here is that everyone in the building will recognize that he's the master and the ruler of the world. But he delivered it in such an epic way. Now, after the one part where Sid took a pause for effect, and you just hear a loud thud in the background, like someone dropped something really heavy on the ground. But it didn't throw Sid off. He just kept going. Then after he wrapped up, they went to Shawn's feet so he could retort to Sid's comments. In this part, I kind of zoned out. He tried to be all tough and macho. Talked about how he can get down and dirty with Sid if need be. He made some snide comment about his dick size, and yeah, like I said, I kind of blocked most of it out. Obviously, with them being in Shawn's hometown, He had a big collection of screaming, horny female teeny boppers behind him. So it did make Shawn come off as more likable in contrast to Sid. But Sid's delivery was far and away superior compared to Shawn. It's like every time I listen to Shawn's promos from around this time, the only thing that comes to mind immediately is disingenuous. Everything about his delivery sounds so put on. It's like, yeah, he's saying all the right words. He's not visibly bumbling over himself. But do you believe him? Not really, no. Him threatening to beat Sid's ass and kick his teeth down his throat. I just scoff at it. I don't believe in badass Shawn Michaels. I never did as a kid, and I certainly don't now. Especially knowing who and what Shawn was really like around this time. The guy that couldn't whip cream with an outboard motor. I could believe in Shawn Michaels, the chicken shit cowardly heel Intercontinental Champion. The cocky fool of himself show-off with the outdated 90s mullet. But the late 96 to 98 version of Shawn, the pre-Attitude Era DX Shawn gimmick, I just never bought it. I guess I'm preaching to the choir. Everyone's heard my countless Shawn Michaels tirades in the past. I've said, though, especially as we get to the Bret Hart stuff in the lead up to Montreal, if you thought me ripping into Shawn throughout his title run was bad, that's nothing. There will be plenty more rants to come throughout 97. On the topic of Bret, he came out to do commentary for this British Bulldog Rocky Maivia match. Bret obviously came out selling the ankle after Austin stomped a mud hole in it on the Sunday syndicated show. I think they also just wanted a color commentator that wasn't the honky tonk man. Can't say I blame him. So this wound up turning into one of those, there's a match going on, but no one could possibly give two shits less. So we're going to have some ringside distraction stuff going on to detract as much attention away from the ring as possible. Matches. It was a mouthful to get through. But no, that's basically what we had here. Bulldog and Rocky are having a very boring TV match in front of a half-dead crowd. At about the midway mark, Owen comes out to play bodyguard by blocking Bret from around the announce desk. There was a great line here where Owen and Bret are jaw-jacking with one another. Bret goes, What are you even doing out here? Owen responds, That's my brother-in-law in there. And Bret just snickers and goes, Yeah, he's my brother-in-law too. I love when Bret gets salty and blunt. It's the kind of dry humor I can appreciate. So as Bret and Vince are talking about Owen while he's standing approximately 6 inches in front of their faces the whole time, like I said, Rocky and Davey are trading moves back and forth in what will probably wind up being the most boring wrestling match in the year 1997. There's a spot where they both tumble over the top rope to the floor, at which point Austin comes out and chop blocks Bulldog in the back of the knee, which... Okay, well, not only does it not immediately lead to a disqualification, it then leads to the alleged babyface Rocky Maivia getting back into the ring to win by countout, which I guess was supposed to give people the motivation to want to cheer for Rocky, even though he won in a very cheap manner. It also makes absolutely zero sense that Austin would go after Bulldog when they're both heels. Because they just got done telling a story where Owen and Bret are still at odds and can't stand each other. Then by the end of the same segment, they're both seen chasing Austin up the aisleway and essentially standing side by side. So I don't get what they were going for here. They did establish that Bret's injured going into the pay-per-view, which, for the life of me, I don't ever recall that being a central focus to the finish of the Royal Rumble. I remember everything that went down between Austin and Bret in the Rumble match, with Austin getting eliminated but the referees not seeing it. So then Austin got back in and dumped Bret out to win. The Bret injury angle, that one completely slipped my memory. It's also been a while since I've seen that match in its entirety. Maybe Bret was still selling the leg all throughout the match and I just neglected that little detail. We'll see. The moral to the story, Rocky Maivia versus the British Bulldog. Not a good television match. Was it any better than the main event of The Undertaker versus Crush? Well, it certainly was not a good match. Mainly because Crush was in it. It is absolutely mind-boggling to think that there was a brief time when the initial members of the Nation of Domination were Clarence Mason, Farouk, Crush, and PG-13. What the hell was their initial plan for this group? Were they sold that this was going to be the finalized faction? Like, come on. God bless Bryan Adams. I know I crap on him a lot. But God damn, was he a rotten professional wrestler. Even The Undertaker couldn't carry this guy to a watchable match. They're just out there having the most nothing happening match you've ever seen. It's like 5 straight minutes of nothing but boring heat spots with Crush doing these lumbering punches and clubbing blows. Every now and then he'd throw in a shitty-looking kick. Then he misses a big diving fist drop, which Taker follows up with by giving the second worst chokeslam of his entire career, behind that bump that Hulk Hogan took years later, where he got him like a foot off the ground. He barely got crushed up for this fucking chokeslam spot. Then all the Nation guys hit the ring for the DQ, including Vader, who I completely forgot was wrestling The Undertaker at the pay-per-view. And then, I don't know what else happened after that. Ahmed, I think, ran out with a 2x4 and they got shit-canned by the heels to close the show out. The only other thing I noted here was that out of the 3 matches we got this week, none of them had clean finishes. That right there is the moment that I knew the Attitude Era was fast approaching. Get ready for 2 straight years of nothing but run-in, DQ, and count-out finishes. Like, I'm not even one of those fans who outright detests DQ and countouts in wrestling. When appropriate and done in moderation, they're great finishes to book. But on this show, did we really need a DQ finish for The Undertaker versus fucking Crush? Is Crush doing a job gonna hurt anybody? Just beat the fucking guy. It's Crush. Nobody gives a shit. Christ. So yeah. That was a really bad go-home show, everybody. Not impressed. Other than Sid's promo, this was a very poor hard sell for the 1997 Royal Rumble. No follow-up on Pete, by the way. He's still presumably in a hospital somewhere. It's really crazy, too, because there's so much that's about to happen between now and just WrestleMania. Like, February in particular is a big month for the WWF, especially with everything that goes down between Shawn and Bret. But yeah, the 97 Royal Rumble for me is pretty much a one-note trick. Other than Austin winning the Rumble, does anyone remember jack shit about that pay-per-view offhand? I barely even remember anything about the Shawn Sid rematch, other than Shawn winning the belt back, which isn't even truly that memorable. It's just what we know happens because of what the plans are supposed to be for WrestleMania. It'll be an experience going back and seeing that whole pay-per-view start to finish. But that'll be on the agenda for next Monday. All I know right now is I gotta get this baby edited and uploaded. Or at least edited. Then I gotta sit down and watch some WCW. I've also gotta make myself some dinner. Meal prepping, baby. Gotta get it done. So on that note, we'll go ahead and close the show out there. Appreciate everybody that comes back to check out the show every week. And catch you all on Friday. Take care, all. Peace out.